Hey, what's up everybody, this is Muth24, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Bandai's model kit of Evangelion Unit 1 from the film Evangelion 2.22, You Cannot Advance, and this is the Awakening version. Now, for the people who haven't seen Evangelion 2.22, I won't spoil anything, but I will say this is a version that appears late in the film, and it's still Eva Unit 1, it just has a different color scheme and a slightly different arm, and then also a few of the accessories are a little bit different. So, taking a look at the front of the box here, we have some pretty cool artwork of the Evangelion Unit 1 with the halo above its head, and then the one arm in sort of a light material, which is really cool in the plastic, and I'll show that off in a little bit. The one thing I'm a little disappointed with, not with the box art itself, but just the kit that I got, is that it was kind of kicked to crap in the mail, and the pieces were all still fine, but the box itself got kicked in a little bit here and there, which was kind of unfortunate, but there's the front. Here's the side. You got a front shot and a back shot. There's the halo. There's kneeling in front of the other pieces, and then him up on an action base. On the other side here, we have a close-up of the head, the arms, the two different sets of eyes that you get, the different decals you can put on the arms, entry plug, umbilical cable, progressive knife, the one that you can put in the shoulder and the one that he can hold, all the different hands, the pallet gun, and then just the different details and colors there on the torso and the rest of the body. So here we have a look at the instruction manual, and you got the same sort of box art look, just a different angle, and it's actually the model kit set against a really cool background there. I really like the way that looks on the front. Taking a look at the inside, there's the Evangelion, some introductory stuff on that. Here's how to cut pieces off the sprues there, front shot of the kit, and then a list of all the parts and runners. And you do get some leftover pieces in this. Then we are going to start building with the body, and actually the build itself is very similar to the old limited model high grades, so if you're familiar with those, it's going to be kind of the same process, just there's some different pieces, and the model kit itself is a little bit more posable, has a few different joints here and there. But you get to the middle, close-up of the head, a list of all the paint colors you'll need, and just a look at the kit from all sides. There you go. And then you keep building, putting the rest of the torso together, putting the legs on, and then showing you how to mount it on the action base. And you do get a special piece to mount this kit on an action base, because it won't mount normally with the standard connection pieces you get for your Gundams and stuff. There's holding the pallet rifle, the knife, and then a final front shot of the kit before we get to the back, which is just kind of a plain black with the the text there and then the Nerve logo at the bottom. So here's a shot of the new movie kit next to the old 90s limited model high grade kit, and you can see that they're about the same height overall. The old kit's shoulders are a little bit taller from the top here, but similar size from the front to back. The colors are notably different because the old one was a much lighter purple, and I do believe this actually is a much darker purple than the standard Eva Unit 1 from the new movie line comes with, but I think that version has a darker purple than this old one does, just to make it seem a little bit more vibrant in terms of its colors. You can also see that the orange, or what would be green on the standard version, is a little bit more defined because they put it in the middle of the torso, the chest pieces, and the head there, whereas the old kit doesn't have that. If you wanted to go and paint it up, you could, but it doesn't come molded in those colors there. Also, the dimensions are a little bit different, whereas the torso here is super skinny and the chest is much bigger. The chest is a little less drastic of a difference there in terms of its size from the rest of the body. The legs are about the same length, but this torso section does seem to be a little bit more defined in just how it's stretched out there. Also, the arms on the new kit stick out further from the body. As you can see, even over here, and even with the shoulder on there, you can tell just how far it sticks out, and that does allow you to get better poses, and these chest pieces will move a little bit more to give it a more realistic look, whereas these ones will just kind of sit still as you move the arms around. Now, you may have noticed that this guy has really big eyes on his head, and the kit does give you the option of putting a different set of eyes and stickers on there if you want to, which are like the standard ones, and you also get stickers for the shoulders there, and basically what you get is enough stickers to build the standard Evangelion Unit 1 in these colors if you want to, because they do include a bunch of extra pieces. They give you enough hands for both sides of the kit. So you have, the trigger finger hand for the pallet rifle there. You have this hand, which will hold the progressive knife. You have an open palm hand that's just relaxed. You have a closed fist hand, and then you have another like grabbing type hand, which I have the other one on him right now. And then you do get a whole nother shoulder piece, and the correct pieces to swap out if you don't want to use that, bare shoulder there. And this one is actually for the progressive knife to be stored inside of, which was one of the gimmicks with the original release of Unit 1 for the new movie version. And you do, in fact, get another bendable arm for that side if you want to build it that way. So you have some options with this kit, which is kind of nice. Now on top of that, you do have another glowing arm here, which basically what you do with this is you'll pop off these two pieces right above that arm. They're hard to see on the camera, but there's two pieces there that are also the clear material that you'll pop off, push this in, and then put those back on. I will admit that's one of the complaints that I have with this kit, is that those clear pieces at the top of the arm are really loose on mine, and they do have a tendency to both fall off if you try and move one of them. If you're trying to keep all your pieces organized, it's a little annoying, but when they're actually on the arm, they tend to stay pretty well, so it's not too terrible. And then you also get this clear stick piece with the halo above it, and basically there's a spot on the back of the neck there that you can just slide this into. But when they give it to you, it's actually one really long piece like this that you just take your wire cutters or whatever and cut in half. So basically you can cut two of them to about the same length if you want to put them in different positions for different poses and stuff. Now if you do choose to put that bent progressive knife in the shoulder here, do keep in mind that you can't actually close the shoulder like that. You can close these parts, but this part will be stuck up because the blade does go back into there. Also, you'll have to paint the blade gray if you want it to look 100% accurate. But as a whole, it doesn't look too bad, just sticking out there for like an action pose if you want him reaching up over his shoulder to grab that out. As for the standard progressive knife, it does come in the two different colors, and the little hinge here will allow it to fold up, if you wanted it stored like that. The pallet rifle itself is really basic. You've just got one color of gray on both sides. But one thing I really do like about the hands here is that the knuckles are all in gray there. That's a separate piece that you put on top of the purple. You don't have to paint any of that. So that's really cool. They added some extra detail there. Some of the fingers are a little weird, just the way they put them on. Like this hand, for example, the fingers are actually attached halfway through the palm. So putting this hand together is a little weird. Once it gets together, it stays together halfway decent, but it's kind of an awkward build for some of the hands there. One thing that is kind of cool with the umbilical cable this time around is that the black cable part actually extends all the way up through the gray plastic up here, whereas before this was all one piece, and then you attach this to the bottom so that you had to paint this black part here. But with this, it all runs through there, and there's actually a little wire in there, so you can bend it to whatever shape you want and it'll hold its shape, whereas the old ones were just sort of a hose material and they would just go straight down and wouldn't really bend unless you left them in a position for a very long time. As with the old limited model high-grade kits, you can open the little hatch here for the entry plug. Same sort of mechanic. You're going to have to flip that part up, and then you can pull the back up and it'll push this little cap off and pull the entry plug out. You're going to have to fish a little bit with your fingers there to get the actual entry plug out, or I suppose you could probably flip it upside down and get it out that way, but it doesn't want to come out for me. It's in there a little bit more securely than the old ones, which is fine. I mean, I'm not planning to pull this thing out that much, but you can see it's a little gray bit there, and it goes back in easy enough. And I do like the fact that it does look nice and flush with the rest of the kit there. The older ones, you could have them open from the sides as well, which was a nice addition, but it did look a little weird. This peg here is where, or little hole there is where the peg for the halo piece goes in. So now for the kit's posability. For the head, you actually have two joints. There's one here at the neck and then one at the back where the old kits had the head joint. And so this, it does limit its range a little bit, but it looks much more natural. And I don't mind because you can still get a decent range out of it. The mouth does open and you've got a red piece in there for the mouth to distinguish the inside against this like gray outside. As for the rest of the posability on this kit, you get the arm joint here, which goes back and forth. You have the ball joint here on the arm where it connects to the socket. You get this shoulder bit that goes quite a ways out and up and does rock around a little bit. The torso has a tendency to fall off, as you may have just heard it crash down to the ground there. The chest pieces here over like the pecs can move back and forth, so if you want him further back you can have it more exposed, or if you want him further forward you can cover it up more. The other arm, because it is the hard plastic, does not move, but you can have the wrist come rock around there and do a 360 and all that. These plastic pieces have a tendency to fall out, as you may have just seen that come off. And then this arm, much like the older kits, does bend not quite as much, I find, but it still bends a decent amount, which is pretty good. You can get the torso to bend about that far forward before it's going to pop off, just because the ball joints will have too much stress on them. You can get it to bend backwards about that far, and you can get him to tilt side to side a decent amount. Like I said just a second ago, this socket up here is not the deepest, and so it will pop out from time to time when you bend them over. The legs will go forward like that, so you can do some high kick maneuver. You can get it to go out to the side about that far. You can get it to go back and basically come around and kick himself in the head if you really want. There's not a whole lot you can't do with the legs, which is very nice. The knees will bend almost 180, not quite, and the kneecap, much like with the old kits, will bend to accommodate the more flush look with the leg. Then the feet can actually kick up and out of the ankle like that. Go back, wiggle side to side a little bit. You can rotate them just a bit there. And then you have this little ankle guard that can wiggle around. And the toes will go up and down a little bit, although they do have a tendency to pop off of the polycap there if you're not careful with them, as you may have just heard that fall off as well. So, final thoughts on this kit. Can I recommend it? For the most part, yes. I think that they've done a really good job designing this kit as sort of an evolution of the older Evangelion kits. There's more posability there. There's more color that pops out. It's a higher quality plastic. That said, it's not the best build ever. The construction process itself is very similar to the old kits. If you've built any of those, you're not going to find anything drastically different with this kit. There'll be a few minor differences here and there, but for the most part, it builds basically the same. The second part is that the torso has a tendency to fall apart and just kind of collapse in half, like you've seen in this review. The arm band up here on the hard plastic, the clear effect plastic, is not the best. That'll pop out. And the feet, depending on how much you move them, they can pop out of the polycaps. That one's a little bit less of a big issue for me because it's more how much you wiggle them around. But the other ones, it's really kind of if you touch them the wrong way or you move them even a little bit, they have a tendency to pop out, which is really unfortunate because I think pretty much everything else this kit does is pretty good. The stickers, I think, look nicer than the old kit did. You've got the eyes, the two choices between the big eyes here and the standard smaller eyes. You've even got the opportunity to build this thing in the full Eva Unit 1 if you want to. Personally, I think the gold halo and gold arm are way cooler, but I mean, that opportunity is there if you want it. So they do give you a lot of freedom with this kit in how you choose to go about building it. Now, usually this kit runs around 4,500 yen, I think. So, you know, $40 to $50 US roughly. It may actually be more now since Bandai is going through that whole flux of not knowing who they're distributing stuff through. It doesn't seem to affect the model kits or the toys quite as much as it does the DVDs and the Blu-ray releases. But that said, model kits like this sometimes do tend to get a little bit more expensive after they've been out for a little bit. So I'd say if you're going to fork out for this, you know, 45 is probably the most I would recommend spending on it. I wouldn't go much higher than that. I know some of the other Eva kits, like the Unit 6, and I believe there's an upcoming Unit 8 and the Unit 2 with the big beefy arm for Evangelion 3.0. Those ones I could say would probably be a little bit more justified, or even the Unit 2 from 2.0 because it comes with a bunch of extra weapons. This one does come with a decent amount of stuff, but it's not a ton. Like, you're buying this mainly for the halo and the golden arm. If there's another version of Unit 1 that you want for accessories, you should just get the standard one because that's going to come with a lot more stuff that's iconic to Unit 1. And you also get the AT field with, I think either version of those, either the 1.0 version or the 2.0 version. You get two different versions of it, I think. But I'm not positive on that. But anyways, this is one you're buying mainly for the Awakening version look. And to that end, I have to say that while it's a cool appearance and a cool gimmick, if you will, to have this version, I don't think it's really justified to be as expensive as it can be marketed as. Not to say that you can find it super expensive anywhere. Some places may have it cheaper, but it's just there's not enough new there for me compared to the old kits to really justify it being a significant price hike over the old $25 price range for the old kits. So that pretty much wraps up this review, and with that, I will see you guys next time.